Hey,
Right.
it's Don McLaughlin. I'm here with, and so delighted to introduce a new friend of Purepower, Greg Nance, out in the Seattle, Washington area. Greg, so nice to have you on what we'll call Purepower Radio.
Awesome, Don. Thank you for the invitation.
And you are, that's accurate, right? You're in the Seattle area?
That's right. Little Bainbridge Island off the coast.
Great. Well, you're about to leave Bainbridge Island on a very significant adventure and effort that has a very good cause tied to it. So, would you just share what it is that you're about to embark on?
Absolutely. So on my birthday, September 29th, I'm going to begin a cross-country run from New York City all the way back home to Seattle, averaging 50 miles a day, all about exploring America's addiction and mental health epidemics to investigate how do we better support those most in need.
Awesome. Well, there's so much of that that's needed given the country's experience with the opioid crisis, and now certainly exacerbated by the unique challenges presented by the COVID pandemic. And you're right, I don't think the timing could be better given, how, stressed is such an understatement. In duress, so many of us are. And how is it for you that this calls to you and you feel that it's so vitally important that you're directing so much of this massive Herculean cross country run at this topic?
Yeah, so you're hitting the nail on the head. This moment in time, I think it's more important now than ever, in part because on the backside of a pandemic, I think we as a people, we as a society can look at various challenges in front of us and have new thinking, bring new solutions to the table. And my belief is compassion goes a very, very long way in actually addressing a lot of these challenges. For me, my own personal conviction here is I've been impacted, as all of us have been, by mental health challenges. Starting when I was about 14, with the car accident that took my cousin's life, and then a debilitating stroke by my grandfather, who's my hero, and really kind of headlong into anxiety and depression, not even really realizing what those things were. And instead of actually getting counseling or some kind of treatment, instead, I was actually self-medicating with malt liquor, with vodka, and then with opiates. And that is obviously not healthy. That is poisoning your body. And I know I'm not alone in that. There are millions of Americans that are self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. And it's time, I think, for a national dialogue about how do we support folks going through this. And my hope is that this cross-country run and the accompanying documentary can be part of the spark for that conversation.
I love it. I love it, Greg. Tell us about that documentary and how you're approaching that, and what that core message you want to come across in that documentary of something that is your physical effort and psychological and emotional, even spiritual, going this enormous distance. What are you thinking in terms of the documentary?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying I'm an accidental kind of filmmaker. I never actually intended to make a documentary. It was only after doing the biggest, best running accomplishment of my life, 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, at that final finish line in Miami, I am a totally broken man. I'm surrounded by dozens of friends. I'm literally getting a champagne shower from my sponsor. I should be on top of the world, but I'm not. My body feels broken, and mentally, I'm just not. I'm not all there. I'm not feeling it, and that was a really tough night because for the first time in years, I picked up the phone, intending to score painkillers because I knew that, hey, this is the warm blanket that will make all of this pain go away physically and mentally. And I felt the next morning like that was like this crazy nightmare, and yet it happened. And that led to some soul searching. I was embarrassed. I felt, ashamed, confused, sort of anguished about, how did this even happen? And that was the first moment where I was able to be a little bit more honest with myself about the extent of the challenges that I'd faced and that I was, actively facing. And that led to a lot of writing, about, how I'm feeling, trying to dig into that. And lo and behold, this slowly becomes a film treatment for, this vision for this run, connect people together, building community, and helping people realize they're not alone, because the stigma and the judgment around mental health and around addiction is so substantial that many of us don't feel like we can be open and honest, even with those that love us and that want to support us, because we fear that judgment. We don't want to let people down, and I don't want to be a downer. No one wants to be around someone that's sad or depressed. My parents have given me so much. How can I tell them that I've been squandering this money or these opportunities that they've worked so hard to provide? And so, yeah, the core message of the documentary is we want to show the power of openness, the power of honesty, the power of connection, of community, because this is a near universal challenge. And as we run across the country, connecting geographies, socioeconomic status, education levels, color, creed, all of that, and every one of us has our own mental health journey. Many of us personally dealing with addiction or have a loved one that is. And the aim is to really show that universality, and how with compassion, with loving support, we can really provide that community, that connection to help folks overcome those challenges.
Amazing, Greg. Really, I mean, from the fact that you discovered this on literally the finish line of seven marathons, 7 continents, 7 days, and just coming to terms with it yourself. Kudos to you, because I've struggled with mental health over years. And it's easy to just sweep under the rug because of the stigma and feeling isolated. And so, bravo that you're taking something very personal to you that has elements of shame tied in with it and elevating it so that we can recognize it together and know that we're not alone. Because I think that feeling of aloneness, right, doesn't it sort of perpetuate both the stigma and the shame and the hidden secrets that are there in plain sight?
Absolutely. And you're hitting the nail on the head once more. It's that aloneness makes us feel even worse. And then we, the behaviors that have led us to that moment, we double down on: drink or drug or isolation. And oh man, it's this really vicious cycle, and you got to turn that around, and it's through connection. So yeah, love the way you're framing that, and beautifully said.
Greg, what about the positive step forward? What was it for you that helped you break addiction and keep it at bay in certain respects, recognizing that I think that's the way addictions are. Doesn't matter whether it's food, sex, money, whatever, they're persistent. And I wonder what it is for you and what you have for our community to say, here's some positive steps that you've seen in your own experience and in others' experience to help start to break that addictive cycle.
Yeah. So for me, I really started digging a hole when I was 16. And I realized pretty quickly, hey, this is not healthy. This is not the direction. This is not the series of choices I want to be making. And yet you're right. It's this grip on you, and I can't escape, because it's Saturday morning. I'm inventorying the damage. I've got a black eye. My knuckles hurt. I apparently drove across town. I don't even remember that. Who is this, woman I'm waking up next to? Like, it's just like this swirl of like, what in the hell? Where am I? What's going on? And Saturday morning, you can vow, never again am I ever going to put myself in this situation, this position. And Sunday morning, you're waking up and it's the same deal. It's Groundhog Day. I tried all kinds of stuff over those 7 years to try to like break free. 100 times I vowed, and yet would find myself in the same place. For me, the single most important thing has been daily motion, literally lacing up my shoes, heading out the door, getting a jog in. A daily running ritual has been, for me, the single most important kind of habit, where I can kind of clear my head. I can put into perspective the challenges that I face, the stress, the pressure, all this. And those mountains become the molehills they actually are. In the course of just a 15 or 30 or 60-minute run, I have perspective again. I have serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin again that feel real good. And that has been the single most critical factor. I have amazing people in my life that are just wonderful. My family, my friends. I've got a great faith community, my pastor, my church friends that I'm able to connect with that always feel really, really good. And with running as kind of the cornerstone there, I've been able to keep the momentum, and not without, really low lows still in the last 9+ years of sobriety. But that for me has created a sustainable habit for a better future.
I love it, and it matches very much with my experience, Greg, hitting my lowest moment, and on the backside of that, discovering how powerful movement was for me and remains to, as you say, keep perspective, regain perspective when it's easy to lose looking at mountains when they're really molehills.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, that movement, whether it's on a bike or running, done consistently seems to deliver, as you described, this cocktail of positive, our own pharmacology in a way, where we can help, restore some balance and regain perspective. And, I'm reminded of a well-known writer in the running world, Scott Douglas, been with Runner's World for years, wrote a book called Running is My Therapy. The premise of which is it really was for him after much trial and error. And also that there is science out there about how therapeutic movement is, and running in particular. So is that also part of your message as you journey across the country?
It is part of the message, because more and more there's an emphasis on kind of like talk therapy and actually trying to describe how you're feeling. And I'm encouraging of all of that. I think it's very powerful, very important. And it's really hard for a lot of people, myself included. I didn't want to talk about how I was feeling. I didn't want to sort of burden that on a friend. That's how I felt, at least. And whereas motion and mobility, there's so much like beautiful freedom in that. It's expansive, it's liberating, and we can do it kind of anytime, anywhere. And that is a core part of the message. And for me, motion and mobility and running have then enabled me to find that perspective and to start putting kind of some of the feelings and emotions and challenges into words. And so I think both together are even more powerful than either separated.
Great, great. I love that, because I think that while there's talk of mental health awareness, I find so much of it is often divorced from practical solutions that are short of going into talk therapy or getting on a prescription, right? Which in my case, antidepressants helped me in some very hard moments, and also they became sort of a band-aid that I couldn't take off. And I feel like there was not much else in the way of the doctor prescribing me these antidepressants could give me in the way of alternatives that wouldn't have the side effects that I experienced.
Yep. And, I'm personally wary of, though I deal with depression, everyone's journey with this is different. I personally am wary of antidepressants because I've had a very unhealthy relationship with pills previously. And so like, for me, it's like anything I can do to actually avoid that, I'd like to, because I don't trust myself. I think I can develop a chemical dependency and then abuse that pretty, sooner than later. And so for me, yeah, the running shoes, that is the therapy. And I live in a beautiful, I'm literally looking out on like this beautiful forest out the window, and it's easier in this environment just for me to get some forest therapy. Though, for anyone listening, I think speaking to your, trusted medical provider, your family, your friends, getting perspective from those and finding the path that works for you. And for someone else, that very well could be antidepressants, and that could be a hiking hobby or cycling or whatever it is that makes you smile. My advantage is do more of it. Follow your smile, and good things happen.
I love that, because I think that, I remember so well feeling overwhelmed by what to do, and then just deferring it constantly, right? That it was too complicated. And, returning for me, the fundamental of just moving, right, on a frequent basis, either running or biking, keeping it simple, just having that be a backstop. Not to say other modalities and support mechanisms aren't really important, particularly with, very deep chronic addiction, but just the simplicity of committing to a practice and sort of taking it on as an identity. It sounds like that's been transformative for you.
Big time. Yep. My life wouldn't be the same, without it. I very, very plausibly in jail or an early grave. And instead I'm here and I'm, you know, trudging my way through trying to, live life to the fullest each day. So yeah, I'm grateful. And it's really kind of a second shot at life.
Well, again, just bravo and kudos to you, Greg, for taking something that's been so painful in your own life and using it as a spotlight for others. You can't imagine the number of people that are positively impacted by what you've done thus far, and that's about to be amplified quite a bit. So, how can people? How can we follow you? What's the best way for us to follow along?
Yeah, the best way to connect is on Instagram. My handle is Greg Runs Far. And I love hearing from folks, sharing your mental health journey, your fitness journey, addiction or recovery. I would love to hear from you. Greg Runs Far.
Great. And you're making a journey basically from New York City, sort of northern US, right, to Seattle. Will there be opportunities for either public talks or people to connect with you along the journey?
Absolutely. And in fact, I would love to have folks out. So yeah, we're going to be going through, starting New York City, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Gary, Indiana, Chicago, Standing Rock, Spokane, onto Seattle. And if you're somewhere nearby, come out, run a few miles, bike a few miles, have a meal with me. I would love to connect.
That sounds great, Greg. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, since we've connected in certain ways around the power of plants, honestly, and this shift that Sean and I experienced that had us, go all in to share with others what we discovered in the form of Purepower, and these incredibly potent herbs and minerals. What's been the experience for you? I know you've been on Purepower for a bit here and sort of just getting started, but it sounds like you've had some early indications of positive impacts.
Absolutely. And I will say, number one, I am a skeptic by nature. And so coming into all of this, I was excited to try because one of my best friends, Tez Steinberg, rode from California to Hawaii. And I see the picture. Oh, man. Yes. Yeah. Dude, so beautiful. Yes. And I asked Tez when he got back, what was the single, biggest factor in your success? And he said, look, it was Purepower. I had the energy I needed each and every day, and it kept my brain and my body sharp. And with that testimony, I was like, look, I got to try this because I'm about to embark on my own big challenge. I want every edge I can find. And I'm a little over a month in now, and I'm seeing three really, really big impacts already from Purepower. Number one, I have a lot more energy in the morning. I used to be like a 2 or 3 or 4 cup of coffee kind of guy to like just get things going, especially when I woke up in a bit of a funk, which happens when you deal with depression. I have just felt, I've had a smile on my face most mornings. I've had more energy. And as I take Power Up, just boom, I'm feeling it. It feels really, really good. Second, after training, recovery is super critical. Every endurance athlete or lifter or climber or hiker, we know that intuitively. But wow, my muscles just feel better, have more energy, they're more elastic, and I'm able to just bounce back faster. The number of I recently did a 95-mile run around Hood Canal in Washington State. And the morning after, like my muscles are feeling good. It's like, wow, like what is going on here? And the only thing I've shifted in the last, 6 weeks of this training block and this race is Purepower. And so there's something to the magic of plants here that's really going on. And the third key difference is actually my favorite because I'm a big sleep geek. I am always looking to get a better night's sleep because it's so foundational to my mental and physical health. And power down 30 minutes before bed has been the single biggest sleep boost that I've experienced in my journey. And it's as simple as, the power of plants. And then I'm sleeping through the night. I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. like usual. I'm sleeping all the way to 6 to 7 before I hit my day. So that has been wonderful, and so many downstream effects that have been just really great. So I'm a booster. I want to be a booster as we do it too.
I love it. I love it, Greg. Thank you so much. It means so much to hear it, and I think it's a testament to, isn't it, that we can deal with the external and internal challenges that we face, and we can help support the body naturally balance itself. Boy, we start to feel pretty darn good, whether we're doing crazy 2,000-3,000 miles like you, or just day to day.
100%. And that's been the beauty, is on the big, tough day, like, wow, that's a game changer. And then day to day, when I'm just, doing my email, hanging out with my nieces, doing a walk around the forest, it's like, man, I got a smile on my face. Good things are happening inside and out. So yeah, it's real powerful. And I'm grateful, for you and your leadership at Purepower. And I'm just so glad that our paths have crossed here, because it's, there is magic there, and really the best is ahead.
Fantastic, Greg. That means so much. I appreciate it, and I'm so excited for everything that's next. So just remind us. I think Greg runs far on Instagram. It's the best place for people to connect with you.
That is right. That's right, Don.
Okay, terrific, Greg. Thanks for making the time. It's such a pleasure connecting with you, and we're rooting you on every step of the way.
I so appreciate it. Thank you for all your support, and I look forward to it.
All right, great, Greg.